Hi folks, I'm Novak and welcome to the Artificers Guild, the home of all things Artifact. We've got an exciting news drop for you today. IGN has just dropped a full couple of videos alongside Richard Garfield, the artifact designer and creator of Magic the Gathering, doing a draft. Now this, as far as we know, is the first time draft has officially been shown. Like I said, there are two videos, so there's a full game also available, but that's on a different video which we're not going to go through today. The links for both of these you can find in the description. So, without further ado, let's jump into this video. Now, they cover a bunch of different topics, and I'm going to be covering themes more towards the end of the video, but as we go through the draft, I want to point out a couple of different things, and most importantly, a bunch of cards that we hadn't seen before that they actually show off in this draft. So before we get into any of these new cards, let's quickly just go through what draft is, for those of you that don't know. Each pack comes with a different hero, and in every pack, you need to draft at least one hero. Each pack also contains 2 items, and then other cards such as spells, creeps and improvements fill out the rest. For more information about drafting, what it is and how you do it, we're going to be releasing a draft video incredibly soon, going through the entire process, so stay tuned for that. Richard Garfield made a little anecdote here. He does like drafting his heroes first where possible, or if not possible, look for key cards. And that's one thing I wanted to leave you with early because that's typically how these guys are going to be drafting. They're going to be looking for heroes, or if not, good cards early on. You can of course pick good spells early, and then later look for a good hero of that colour. Now you will have more cards than you need to build a deck. If you don't get a hero of the colour you need, there are basic heroes which you'll have 3 copies of to just throw into your deck as and where you need to. These are Farven, Riley, Keith and Jamoy. We've seen these from packs. They're they're known as creep heroes or basic heroes. They're probably not as strong as some others, although some people would argue otherwise, and quite rightly so. But they're there just in case you need them. After you pick your first pack and you get to your next pack, like this one here, there'll be 2 cards missing. These are 2 cards that another real player has picked out. However, it's not like drafts in real life, where a single pack is passed between 5 or so players, and you kind of know what they're going to be taking or what you want to take, and you might be able to help each other out that way. This pack goes into the wilderness of the internet. Many different people will eventually be taking from this one pack, and you have no idea what they're after. In fact, hundreds of different people might take from the same different things during your draft. So you do end up building a really sort of organic draft deck. While Richard Garfield continues his draft, let's take a quick look at the user interface. We obviously have our cards in the centre, and to the right we see our building list of cards sorted by mana. The camera is obscuring some graphs, but we can see the number 2 in a green and black square, perhaps showing that that's the colour breakdown. We've currently got 2 green cards and 2 black cards. Next to that, of course, we have a mana curve, also showing colours, and this is a bit more useful. We can see that we've got 1 4 mana, or we've got an equal number of 4 mana black and green cards, a 5 mana set of black cards, and an 8 mana plus set of green cards. Nicely shows where you're going to be looking to play your different colours at different points of the game. Then next to that, we have a breakdown of what different cards you have of the different categories: creeps, spells, improvements, and items. And finally, your 5 hero slots themselves. During this, they also mentioned that you have basic items, just like basic heroes, so you can actually draft no items at all and still make a valid deck, which is pretty useful. Now let's jump into some new things. First of all, we have Buying Time, a 3 mana blue card which gives 2 random cards in your opponent's hand plus 2 lock. And this finally gets lock explained. Lock is effectively a timer put on cards in your opponent's hand. So in this instance, plus 2 lock on 2 random cards in your opponent's hand, so 2 cards in your opponent's hand will get a plus 2 timer on them, and for 2 turns, 2 rounds, they won't be able to use those cards. They're effectively out of play for the next 2 rounds. This seems like a very trolly sort of mechanic, and I absolutely love it already. We then, from here, go into the final pack, and we're forced to pick a hero, as we currently haven't picked one. This ensures that you take 5 of the core heroes, on top of having basic heroes available for your picking. Here, we finally see one of our first of the revealed cards, Whispers of Madness. This is a 2 mana blue spell that lets you stun an enemy this round, but then stuns all of your own heroes. I can't really see myself using this much, except for maybe in some meme decks, but I mean, meme decks definitely use this, surely. Just stun everything first turn. Why not? Run 3 copies of this, stun everything. Moving on, we see another new card. Here is the 2 mana green spell, Bellow, to move a creep to another random other lane. Bellow seems like the baby version of Intimidation. Is Valve trying to say that Magnus is only half as scary as Viper? I mean, Viper is pretty scary, but Agnes is huge, man, come on. Skipping ahead a bit here, we see our next new card, and it's another lock card, Lost in Time. This grants 3 random cards in your opponent's hand, plus 3 lock for 6 mana. So this is even more irritating and annoying than the previous one we got to see, and I can't wait to see some people completely lose their minds over this. They also talk about the typical number of colours you see in a draft deck. We've heard in Constructed that 2 colour is king, mono appears sometimes, and tricolour is very rare, and leave your rainbow stuff to Slacks, he's the only person that actually tries that. But apparently in draft, mono and tri are swapped. With enough good cards of one colour being really hard to get by, mono is going to be far less used, and instead you might actually splash an extra colour and move into tricolour to really make a good coherent deck. Duke and Cleansing Rite are our next 2 new cards in this one little snapshot. Aren't we lucky that we did 2 cards right in front of us? Duke is a 1 mana get out of jail free card, letting you swap the position of 2 allied units and potentially saving one, or maybe even using one quite aggressively. Cleansing Rite is a 4 mana purge on enemies, which is perfect for deleting that Time of Triumph buff, or getting us some crazy huge Mists of Avernus buff that they've just been accumulating from turn 1. Here we see Treant blocked out, as they've already grabbed Sniper in the previous round, and you're only allowed 1 hero per pack. And then we see another 2 new cards. Raise, a 5 mana destroy or condemn all enemy improvements card for red, and Divine Intervention, a 5 mana replacement for Chen. Just kidding. But for 5 mana it does do half of what Hand of God Chen's signature card does, and grants all allies damage immunity this round. Here we see 1 new card and 1 blurred out card straight away, but the blurred out card has already been revealed. That blurred card is at any cost, the 3 mana blue spell that deals 6 damage to all units card that we saw on Sunday. The other though is Thunderstorm, the 6 mana deal 4 damage to every enemy. A cross between At Any Cost and Tower Barrage, this card deals 4 damage to every enemy, potentially being incredibly lethal, and hitting that all important 4 damage marker, making sure at the very least you're killing a bunch of melee creeps. And then finally on this page we also see Avernus' Blessing, which is basically a combat training but for green, just +2 attack to any unit. It is a modification just like combat training, so it is quite nice, but probably more useful in red, which is being a bit more aggressive. Nonetheless, a nice new card. Here we see Caught Unprepared. This looks like a hilarious card and definitely gets a slot in any of my meme decks. But in draft I feel that with all the low cost items we hear about, this will be hard to make work. For 4 mana, Caught Unprepared, a green spell, will stun a hero until they equip an item. I just can't wait to go into Constructed against all these people putting 3 25 gold sets of 3 cards in their item deck, basically only being able to have the most expensive items, thinking, I'm going to completely trounce this guy. Throwing a Caught Unprepared in a meme deck full of meepos and god knows what else, and their hero is stunned until they can get 25 gold. I really just can't wait for that to happen. You know what's going to happen, right? Now, moving on to our next set of cards, we see our first item here, Ring of Tarask. Now, Heart of Tarask in Dota is a huge item that grants a massive amount of strength, and in this game basically health, and crazy regeneration passive. So, its baby brother, the Ring of Tarask, gives the equipped hero +4 health and +6 regeneration. I like the little theme here. It's a hark to Dota, but it's sort of borrowing an item, just like the item next to it, Barbed Mail, like a baby version of Blade Mail. I like all of these little calls to Dota without effectively just taking on the entire aesthetic of it. Now here, Richard Garfield lets us have a little peek inside his brain. Golden Ticket is one of Richard's favourite cards. Despite being a preacher against excessive RNG, the man himself loves Golden Ticket, which is an item that costs 9 gold and just gives you a completely random item from the secret shop, so basically a completely random item. He actually suggested this used to be cheaper, and he loved using it even more. I bet he secretly adores RNG, but he knows how to make a game, and Smart Richard takes over when making design decisions. But Fun Richard takes the wheel when drafting, and we got to see a little bit of that him here. They are now into their last pack, so the new cards and the drafted bits are coming to a close. But even here we spot a new item, Revtel Signet Ring, which once they close in power I'll be able to show you. So also just to point out quickly, this is like a really nice hero and card viewing pane, which we haven't seen previously. Anyway, on to the new item, Revtel Signet Ring. This item, which we can't really see the cost of, gives an equipped hero +4 health and -3 bounty. Is there something the Merchant Kings of Revtel have done to decrease the bounty on their merchants? If so, I'd very much like them to do the same for me in Dota, because people just keep killing me for I can only assume is no reason. I'm never out of position, they're just killing me. So I'd love to this little buff. Please, Revtail Kings, give me this buff in Dota so people stop killing me. Thank you very much. Here we have Defensive Stance, another new card, and I'm pretty sure we saw this earlier in the draft to be honest, but I was pretty unimpressed by it. The same with Crippling Blow. Defensive Stance is a 2-mana red spell that gives a hero +3 armor this round. And if we just go back a second here so we can look at Crippling Blow, that was a 4-mana red spell that modified a hero with -2 attack. Both of these seem a little out of place in red almost. Red already has much better attack than anyone else and much better armor than anyone else. So I guess you're just exacerbating those things, but I don't really think I'm going to be using these. However, a guy in a bathrobe once told me that bad cards are actually good in draft. So they've got to be good, right? In this next pack we see Rolling Storm, a 3-mana blue spell that deals 2 damage to all towers in all lanes. You know, I might just take this on the one-off chance that I ever want to kill my own tower, just to spite my enemies. But otherwise, I think I'll pass, just like Richard Garfield does, selecting 2 different cards, Foresight and Furline Mantle. The draft ends out with a Keenfolk Golem and a Restoration Effort, which are the only 2 cards left for your force to take them. And then we move on to the deck building itself. This does of course mean we've come to the end of our new cards, but stay tuned for some anecdotes about Richard Garfield regarding drafting, deck building and more. So what we have in front of us is either a really old build, or potentially a new build, where they've renamed Riley the Cunning back to Debbie the Cunning. Debbie has returned. The community, you did it. Well done. This UI looks really sweet by the way. It's a little different from the one that got leaked way back when, but it's an aesthetic upgrade as far as I'm concerned. It looks absolutely gorgeous and it's a lot more clearer than the other one was, which we had to piece together just by figuring things out. The deck itself, they're talking about here, needs to have 40 cards, 5 heroes and 9 items, just like in the Constructed. But like I said before, you've got the 4 basic heroes, which you can see you have 3 copies of each one. So they can help you get up to that 5 hero cards. And also there's 3 basic items, including Traveller's Cloak on your screen here, which you can include 3 of in each of your item decks for absolutely nothing. So that brings you up to your 9 items, and then otherwise you're just putting your spells together. In the top right, just as we thought you can when we were looking at the deck builder, you can order your heroes. We see 3 round 1 heroes, which they're filling in here, then a round 2 hero and a round 3 hero. This is a really nice way of laying it out, and I think even beginners should be able to comprehend what's going on in this top corner. Now, just as we've heard so much from all of the beta testers, even Richard Garfield puts his foot down and always puts 3 Traveller's Cloaks in every item deck in draft. Apparently it's just that good, the value is just so good. Of course, he also always puts his golden tickets in, and he always wants more than 1. I can't personally recommend that, but I mean, take it for what it is. If Richard Garfield says it's good, of course, it's good, it's canon. It just has to be good. Richard Garfield, when looking at some of the blue cards, does also go on to explain that dealing direct damage with cards like Lightning Strike is actually a lot more value than you think, and he sees it do a lot of work in a lot of games. After they make some finishing touches to this deck, they go into a match, which like I said, I will link below, and if you guys want, I might even do an analysis of. Until then, as we aren't quite done just yet, there were a few things Richard Garfield kept mentioning that I just have to cover for you guys. These themes that Richard Garfield kept bringing up are quintessential to draft itself. Richard constantly talks about creeps being great in draft, just as a presence on the board, and it's much harder to deal with when your enemy can't pick easy ways to take care of lots and lots of units. Cross-lane effects are also highly valuable in limited modes, as nothing in these modes is quite as consistent as it would be in Constructed. So cards like Grazing Shot or Improvements can help balance that out by being able to be played across lane. When deck building, Richard Garfield also tends to put heroes in first, then his items, and then his spells, creeps and improvements, starting from high mana and going low. This is more of a personal preference kind of thing, but you can do this in any order you like. So let me know in the comments below, when you're building your draft decks in the draft simulators we've already seen out there, which cards are you drafting first? Are you putting your heroes in immediately, or are you going straight for that Bolt of Damocles because you know you're going to build an entire deck around it? As always folks, thanks for watching this. If you really would like to help us out, then likes and subscribes are fantastic, and I adore you all for doing that. I've been Div of the Artificers Guild, and I will see you next time.